Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine, where they have nothing but the best human beings working down there. MadMarine.com is where you can go to learn more. For more than a decade now, I've been telling you about these guys, but their story goes back 3 decades longer than that. How does a boat store halfway between Knoxville and Chattanooga thrive for 40-plus years? The biggest selection of boats in East Tennessee, the best prices in East Tennessee, and satisfied repeat customers. Madisonville Marine. All right, there is no question the success of Nick Saban has made life tougher on coaches. No question. Because now every fan base looks at it and says, well, why can't we be in the top 5 in recruiting every year? Why can't we win the division every year? Nick Saban's doing it. It can be done. So that's tough. So I wanted to go back and look. How has it impacted the coaching changes? Because I thought it was going to say one thing. I want to see if you're surprised by this. Let's go to this graphic. In the 11 years before Nick Saban, there were 32 coaching changes in the SEC. In the 11 years since he landed in Alabama in 2007, 31. I was shocked by that. I would have thought it was the other way around. Now, I didn't count Texas A&M and Missouri because they weren't in the SEC that whole time. I also, when I did this, looked at coaches at each of these schools. I went back 11 years, as I say, before he was hired, and didn't count interim coaches. So interims don't count there. Neither does Mike Price at Alabama. He didn't count since he never coached a game. But I was surprised by this, that it seemed to me like the number of guys getting fired would be higher than it was, and it's actually the reverse of what I expected. You guys surprised at all, or no?
Well, the most surprising thing to me, John, is my quick math shows that there's actually been more turnover in the SEC East since Nick Saban than there has been in the West. And whereas the previous 11 years it was 50-50. So I would have thought there'd be a higher turnover in the West than the East since Saban.
So that's one that gets me, because his impact on the East is not as great as the West. If you win in the East or at least going to the championship, he has no impact on Kentucky changing coaches or Vanderbilt, right? But he does in the West. So to Mike's point, that did surprise me a little bit.
He does with Tennessee as well, since Tennessee plays him every year.
Yeah.
And you can make the case, the 2007 game when they weren't good and they beat Tennessee, they had to open the game with the onside kick, if I recall correctly. And then 2008, the stadium was all Bama fans. That played a big role in Philip Fulmer's exit. And then you had Kiffin left on his own. But the whole spin there, you've had 4 at Tennessee. But I was shocked, though. I would have thought that more guys would be gone after the age of. There's no question he has made it more difficult on coaches, but some of these schools, they're not turning over on their coaches any more than they were beforehand.
One thing Saban's done is he's helped salaries rise. The higher the coach's salary, harder it is to fire him. Would
buy him out?
Would Kevin Sumlin still be there if he were making $3.5 million per year instead of $5 million? They might have made a change last year, so that could be a factor as well.
And expectations too.
And
to me, there's only one coach I look at and say, "Yep, he really got that guy fired." To me,
Les Miles.
Yeah.
It
Fulmer was certainly
it happened quickly with Tommy Tuberville too, but I don't know if that was all on him.
Yeah.
But
I would say partially Richt, because Richt has at least one more SEC title, maybe a national title, if not for Nick Saban. And Richt is still at Georgia if he won those games.
In the title count, guys, and Jimmy, you may know this off the top of your head. Steve Spurrier won, 5 or 6 SEC? Is Nick Saban really any more dominant than Steve Spurrier was in the 1990s?
Spurrier didn't win.
I know he's won more national titles, but
So
did he win
that's
as
why
many
he's
SEC titles?
It's close on the SEC titles, but with the national title, to me, that would trump it.
Well, but remember, the national title process was a lot different back then. We don't know what would have happened in the 90s if we would have had a BCS before 1998. I don't think Michigan would have won it in 97.
Okay. All right. When we come back,
Florida would not have.
We're going to go in. I think Saban's the most dominant coach in the history of college football, at least in modern football history. When you look at what he's doing in this environment, you're playing more games. You have conference championship games. You now have playoffs on top of that. You've got conferences set up to where, now you've got a scholarship limit, and you got guys that can go to small schools and still be seen on TV by mama. That used to, I'm 4th string at Alabama. Now I'll go start at South Florida. That's a different deal. So what I'm seeing out of Nick Saban is.
And national championships at different schools too.
Yeah, 5 in a decade is pretty incredible, or decade plus. Yeah. Pretty amazing. All right, when we come back, it's our fast finish. Butch Jones makes a watch list. SEC title droughts. We know Tennessee's in the midst of one. Who else has had big, long droughts? We'll discuss. Come on back.